Tool groupies, and welcome to the Backwoods Mechanic channel. It's early morning, we got a service call. Local business has had some issues with their air compressor. I've been in here before and seen this thing once or twice, and a few little odds and ends, and they've had somebody else come in to attempt to make some repairs for them, and they sent me a video last night of what this thing was doing on top of what it looked like, which is even worse because somebody has definitely jacked up this air compressor. So we're going to go see what's going on with it, try to take it apart, try to get it fixed. This is crazy because it looks like they have wore the threads out, they've stripped them out, and instead of tapping it and putting in a proper bolt, proper fastener, look at this. They put epoxy in it to hold it down. I mean, that's just ridiculous to be able to have to get this thing on and off here. And it makes a high-pitched squealing sound. Really high-pitched, sounds awful. I mean, it looks like they've damaged this in some way. I had one of the helpers turn the machine on, and I had the stethoscope on my ears. I was poking it around on the air compressor, listening to where it was at. I didn't want it to run for a long period of time, and it sounds like it's coming from this chamber right here. So that's where we're going to focus at. Now, all I can assume by looking at these gaskets, this one's a new one, these are old ones. And if I was a betting man, they won't admit to it, but I would say that whoever they had come in here and do this for them, they didn't want to take these fasteners all the way out. They probably just barely pulled this one out and scraped the old gasket material here, and I bet it fell down inside this thing because I've run into this situation before. That I can take a wrench to these, get the fasteners off. The ratchet wrench is not going to fit right here. A regular deep weld socket's not going to work right here. What we need is a pass-through socket set, which is what we're going to be trying out here today. Went and picked this up from Harbor Freight, and it's definitely going to be very useful for what we're going to be using it for right here. This is whenever these nice, cheap $20 tool sets come in handy, whenever it makes your life and your job 10 times easier. Now, this was my very first time using this set straight out of the box, and as you can see, the detent ball already fell completely out of the extension. So that is the downside of these cheap tools. But it was something that I could easily go pick up last night. I have a Stanley set. The Stanley set did not have the extension with it, and it's going to take a while to order a good set from Gearwrench. Though, for the simple fact that I do need this tool for the time being, at least for that second fastener that it's ever been on, I had to already fix the tool. So it wasn't no big deal to put the detent ball back in place. Now, had that detent ball fail and I not caught it and I not seen it, then I would basically not be able to hardly use this tool without it falling off continuously. And all it is a little metal ring on the inside right there, so basically I had to hammer it back into place. What I'm going to do though is go get me some epoxy, and I'm going to squirt it down in there so that that ring will stay in place. They definitely need a bigger, fatter ring because they leave it enough room on the inside here. As you can see right there now, it's got enough room to slide down. So if they would have made a bigger, fatter ring, then this might not have been a problem. Definitely got our fasteners broke loose with the exception over here because they got different sizes. Most of these are 9/16. Then we've got hex head right here, and we got a 5/8 right there. So this is going to be one of those things where somebody's worked on it and they've just kind of jumbled it together back and forth. They put the wrong size fasteners in it. They ended up stripping holes on it, trying to re-tap them. You know, this is very shoddy work, so go grab me some more tools just to get into this thing. As you can see, somebody did attempt to put some kind of gasket on here, but they did not clean this up. So you can see part of the problem right there. It's not good and tight. Now this gasket looks pretty well brand new, so whenever they put it on here, I suspect that they dropped some of the gasket material down in here. The only way to find out looks down inside the cylinder head, see if we can see anything, and if we can, then it'll verify it. If we can't, then we'll take the cylinder head apart just to inspect. There's the high pressure cylinder head on this side and the low pressure on this side, which you can't see down in real good because they got these big studs in the way. Oh yeah, I believe I see something right down there to the left-hand corner that looks like something is definitely in there. It's right right directly to the left of the intake valve. We're definitely going to go ahead and take the top of the cylinder head off here. Be able to clean this out, make sure nothing got down inside of it. Because if anything got down inside the cylinder itself, there's definitely going to be some problems. We got to wonder if our springs have lost tension on them. You know, anything like that. Inspect all that stuff down in there. Because if they've lost tension, those rings have, then, you know, that could be a problem too. But we're going to pull it out here, check it out, and make sure. Nope. Trying to break this 1.5 inch fastener loose right here, and it's just not going to work with this Pittsburgh Pro. It's the big, long flex head ratchet. It does give you plenty of leverage, but I am putting all kinds of force on this, and the whole arm is bending, and I can see right there at the neck that it's going to snap loose if I keep putting pressure on it. So I'm going to have to change them out and try another one. I guess now the 3/4 inch drive right here is going to be the one that tries to become the winner. All kinds of buildup. This whole compressor should be actually took completely apart and cleaned up right there. That is entirely too much buildup on the inside right here. I mean, look at that. That's awful. This thing is not running too good. If this one specific intake valve over here has this much buildup around it, you can imagine the other ones, because you got the high and the low side on both sides of this, 8 of them all together, and you're going to have all this kind of buildup around the inside of it, not to mention whatever the rest of the head looks like here. The crankcase, your exhaust manifolds here, your cylinder head, the cylinder, your crankcase, both of the intercoolers on the in and outside. So yeah, you can imagine the kind of buildup, but they just want me to come in and get it going right now as quickly as possible. So that's what we're going to do. Not doing the job the right way in the first place, because you could warp everything if you over tighten something. And just by looking at this, they have a 5/8 right here, the hex here, the 9/16 on the rest of them. You got these 2 big studs here where they stripped out all the threads, you know, and then they tried to epoxy it together on the bottom. I mean, this thing is a mess, so you can imagine what can be done to this. They over tighten something, don't put the right gasket on it, gum it up, get epoxy down inside of it. I mean, all this buildup and, you know, neglecting to do routine maintenance on it will cause you all kinds of little problems. And I'll be the first to tell you, I don't know all kinds of stuff about air compressors. But what I do know is whenever I come across specific models and I do something routine enough, like if you have similar situations that frequently occur over and over again with different things, whether it's equipment or vehicles, then you know what to look for, especially if it's certain name brands. Now, whenever it comes to, you know, technicalities, this, that, and the other, and switching around what type of air compressors you're working with, then I print off a manual, I research everything that I got to know about that particular product, and then we go from there to try to fix it. But this is something, like I said, that I've seen before people have issues with. So we're going to start with this, clean it all out, get this out of the way, and we'll put it back together and see if it runs. Now let's see what it looks like in here. Oh, damn. That's awful. Look at that. That is a bad deal right there. Alright, so you can imagine what the rest of this looks like. If this is the very first one we pulled off, you can guarantee that the other 7 are going to look just like this. Just like it. You can see the piston right there. We moved the piston with our hand. We can kind of use the phone to look down in there too to make sure that there's no gunk sticking to the piston. Kind of zoom in on it and you can see if there's any type of scuffs or imperfections right there on the side in case you need to hone it out. And it looks nice and shiny. Like I said, at this point in time, the company absolutely wants this thing put back together. I will take pictures of this, give it to them, I'll let them look at it, and if they decide that they want me to come back and tear the whole top of this apart and clean it out, you know, put some new gaskets on it, all that, that's exactly what we'll do. But all we can do is what they want us to do and what we're getting paid for right now. I mean, we do have
one of these on hand that we could make work. We absolutely had to. Since they got one, we might as well order the rest and redo them all at one time. Like here's another old one. You can see where this one's been worn out. That ain't no good. Some of the times, whenever you get them, they'll be cracked right through here. But in this case, that one was worn out right in the middle of it. I decided to take it apart, clean it out a little bit, sprayed it down with some purple power, rather, whatever you want to call it. And this thing is cleaned up pretty decent compared to what it was. Now, of course, I would rather put a brand new one in, but we do got 7 more just like it that we're going to have to take apart and deal with. So we might as well do that all at one time, because I guarantee they're just as bad. But it is what it is. Customer at this moment in time does not have any parts on hand that we can utilize for this particular air compressor. So they're going to have to order the parts, and by that time we will come back and reinstall all new pieces. They want this thing up and running right now, but within the next week or two, whenever they get some free time, get caught up on their job, they said I could come back and definitely go ahead and take these out and clean them until they get the new pieces in. But yeah, I had to take a drill bit and run it through here because that was rock hard. All the sediment that got up inside there is just awful, but it's a lot better than what it was. And now it's a lot better down inside here than what it was. Not the greatest thing in the world. I'm still going to clean around the outside circle here, and we're going to reassemble it and fire it up and see if that verifies part of the problem. If you're somebody who ever works on these, make sure when you put it down in here, there's no wiggle room back and forth. You want it to be in there nice and solid. That way it don't cock sideways. And stick our gasket back in here. Put us a little dab of oil right there on the outside. That way it'll go in nice and smooth. We're going to be taking it apart again here in just a few weeks. Now to torque this down properly, you should go by the specs that are inside of the manual for the air compressor that you're working with, and you should make sure to have a torque wrench. We'll go back to the old Harbor Freight's Pittsburgh Pro here because we know it can't put too much torque on it, whereas that 3/4 definitely would. We need to tighten this down here. You don't want to go too tight. You can always look down inside there and make sure that it's going to line up right where it's supposed to begin with. And once again, there's probably torque specs in your own manual if you got one. Now the little acorn. Now we just got to get our gaskets all together, put them back on, put the manifold, baffle, all that stuff back on, fire it up. Get these run down in here, we'll go get our torque wrench, and then we will torque them down. Now here is one benefit about these tools. You put your adapter here, your extension here, get yourself a 3/4 inch socket, 12, 6 point, don't matter, snap it into place. Get yourself a regular ratchet, snap it into place. Now it's going to set you right over top of all these other obstructions that's in your way so that you can spin this all the way around like a spinner handle and not have to ratchet this thing back and forth. Isn't that wonderful? Now that's why tools like this, even if they're cheap, they're very practical for certain applications. So just think about that next time you're doing a repair like this. Plus, whenever I go get the torque wrench, all I got to do is put the torque wrench in here, and I can torque these down just as well as the rest of them. Now we check our torque specs here. It says that we need 15 foot-pounds of torque. So we'll break open our gear wrench here. And right here we go. The torque wrench is here to save the day. Oh yeah, at least we get to do the job right this time. See, this is already set on 10, so all we got to do is turn it around till it hits that 5 right there, and we will have 15 foot-pounds of torque. Like so. There we go. And just as I said, right there, you put all these extensions on here, and then you are still able to make sure you torque it down to the right specs without having to go too far. And by the way, if you haven't checked out the review for this, it's coming up sometime soon, along with the 120 XP review from Gearwrench. And yes, I did buy this product. Now, let's see if she runs any better by flipping the switch. Well, until we come back to finish cleaning up all the rest of them, get some new parts to put in it and everything, that is it for this video. They can get through the work week running this until the parts come in, and we'll be back and we'll do a rebuild on this sometime in the near future. So pop the clutch on that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below. Go follow on Instagram.